Alexander Litvinenko had once served inside Russia's security establishment. He worked for agencies that emerged from the Soviet intelligence system, eventually serving in the Federal Security Service, known as the FSB. In 1998, Litvinenko appeared publicly with several colleagues and accused senior officials of ordering illegal acts. His decision transformed him from an insider into a highly visible critic. He was arrested in Russia, prosecuted, and later released. In the year 2000, he fled with his family and eventually received asylum in the United Kingdom. From London, Litvinenko wrote and spoke extensively about corruption, organized crime, and the Russian security services. He also conducted investigative and due diligence work for private security companies, using contacts and knowledge developed during his earlier career. The public inquiry later examined whether these activities, his criticism of the Kremlin, or his relationships with political opponents, provided a motive for his killing. Litvinenko was not simply a former employee living quietly abroad. He continued gathering information. He maintained relationships with former intelligence officers, Russian business figures, journalists, and political exiles. He became a British citizen in October 2006. Less than 1 month later, he attended a meeting that would expose him to one of the most dangerous radioactive materials known. On the afternoon of November 1st, Litvinenko traveled through central London. One of his meetings took place at the Millennium Hotel in Grosvenor Square. There he met Andrey Lugovoy and Dmitri Kovtun, men he already knew. Lugovoy was a former security officer who had moved into private business. Kovtun was his associate. The meeting occurred in the hotel's Pine Bar. Tea was served. According to the later public inquiry, Litvinenko swallowed the fatal dose of polonium-210 while drinking from a teapot during this meeting. Nothing about the tea appeared unusual. Polonium-210 has no color that a victim could easily detect. It produces alpha radiation, which is highly dangerous when swallowed or inhaled, but does not behave like the radiation imagined in popular films. Litvinenko left the hotel without knowing that the substance was already inside him. Later that day, he became violently ill. At first, the symptoms resembled food poisoning or another severe gastrointestinal illness. He vomited repeatedly and was admitted to hospital. Doctors faced a medical puzzle. His condition continued to deteriorate, but routine explanations did not fit. His hair began falling out. His immune system collapsed. His internal organs were failing, yet the true cause remained hidden. As Litvinenko's condition worsened, the possibility of deliberate poisoning became increasingly serious. He began describing his movements and meetings to investigators. This is where the case earned its extraordinary reputation. The victim did not solve the murder alone, and he did not possess scientific proof of the poison, but he gave detectives a starting map. He identified whom he had met, he recalled where they had sat, he described the hotel, he explained his relationship with Lugovoy and Kovtun. Those statements allowed detectives to revisit locations that might otherwise have appeared completely ordinary. Litvinenko was helping investigators while the unidentified substance continued destroying his body. The official inquiry later reconstructed his final movements using his statements, witness evidence, hotel records, and forensic contamination findings. At this stage, detectives still did not know exactly what they were investigating. A conventional poison might leave chemical traces. A biological toxin might produce a recognizable pattern. But the material inside Litvinenko was so unusual that even experienced medical teams did not identify it immediately. Then, shortly before his death, laboratory analysis detected polonium-210. The medical mystery became a radiological emergency. Polonium-210 changed the entire investigation. The substance was rare, it required specialized handling. And although the fatal amount could be extremely small, Contamination could spread wherever the material was spilled, transferred, or excreted. Investigators and radiation specialists began testing locations connected to Litvinenko's movements. They found contamination at the Millennium Hotel. They examined aircraft, rooms, vehicles, and other places associated with Lugovoy and Kovtun's visits to London. Instead of disappearing completely, the poison had created a forensic route: seats, hotel rooms, objects, bathrooms. The traces did not speak in words, but together they formed a timeline. The 2016 inquiry concluded that the evidence showed earlier unsuccessful attempts to poison Litvinenko before the final meeting on November 1st. It found that polonium contamination connected Lugovoy and Kovtun to locations involved in those attempts and to the fatal exposure at the hotel. The contamination trail was powerful because it supported the victim's account. Litvinenko had told investigators whom he met. Radiological testing connected those men's movements with the poison. The teapot from the Pine Bar contained an exceptionally high level of contamination. The inquiry ultimately concluded that Lugovoy and Kovtun had placed polonium-210 in the teapot and deliberately poisoned Litvinenko. But establishing a forensic conclusion was not the same as bringing anyone before a British jury. Alexander Litvinenko died on November 23, 2006. The official finding was that acute radiation syndrome caused by ingesting polonium-210 led to the cardiac arrest that ended his life. Shortly after his death, a statement attributed to Litvinenko accused Russian President Vladimir Putin of responsibility. The public inquiry would later examine that allegation through evidence extending far beyond the statement itself. His widow, Marina Litvinenko, spent years seeking a full public examination of the evidence. British prosecutors sought the extradition of Andrey Lugovoy. Russia refused. European arrest measures and international notices were issued, but the suspects remained beyond the reach of a British criminal trial. Lugovoy and Kovtun denied murdering Litvinenko. Russian officials also rejected allegations of state responsibility. Because no trial occurred in Britain, the evidence was not tested through a conventional criminal proceeding with the accused present and represented in court. However, a statutory public inquiry was eventually established in 2014 under retired High Court Judge Sir Robert Owen. The inquiry reviewed open and sensitive material, witness statements, scientific findings, police evidence, and the movements of the people involved. Its purpose was to determine what had happened and who was probably responsible, although it could not itself impose criminal liability. The report rejected the suggestion that the poisoning had been accidental. It concluded that Lugovoy and Kovtun knew they were using a deadly poison. The repeated attempts, the contamination pattern, and their conduct supported deliberate action. The public inquiry concluded that there was a strong probability the operation had been directed by Russia's Federal Security Service. It further concluded that the killing was probably approved by Nikolai Patrushev, then head of the Federal Security Service, and by President Vladimir Putin. The wording matters. The inquiry did not claim absolute mathematical certainty. It used the language of assessed probability based on the evidence available, including material that could not all be published openly because of national security concerns. The United Kingdom government described the finding of probable Russian state involvement as deeply disturbing and summoned the Russian ambassador. Russia rejected the report. Lugovoy publicly denied involvement and criticized the inquiry. The accused men were not extradited, and the British police investigation remained open. That distinction creates the unresolved core of the case. The murder was forensically reconstructed. The inquiry named the men responsible. It assessed who probably authorized the operation. Yet no British court has convicted the accused killers. The evidence produced an answer. International politics prevented the final courtroom ending. The choice of polonium-210 remains one of the case's most disturbing features. A conventional weapon could have created witnesses, ballistics, or immediate suspicion. Polonium initially disguised the attack as illness. Whoever selected the material may have expected it to disappear inside the victim without being recognized. But the poison also created risk for those transporting and handling it. Contamination exposed their roots. A substance chosen for secrecy became the evidence that connected the operation. The confirmed facts form a remarkable sequence. Alexander Litvinenko was a former Russian security officer who became a critic of the Kremlin and worked as an investigator in Britain. On November 1, 2006, he met Andrey Lugovoy and Dmitri Kovtun at London's Millennium Hotel. He drank tea from a pot later found to be heavily contaminated with polonium-210. He became ill that evening. As his condition deteriorated, he described his meetings and movements to investigators. Radiological testing then traced contamination through locations associated with the suspects. Litvinenko died on November 23rd from acute radiation syndrome. The 2016 public inquiry concluded that Lugovoy and Kovtun deliberately poisoned him, and that a Federal Security Service operation was probably approved by senior Russian leadership. The accused men and the Russian government denied responsibility. No British criminal trial has taken place. Litvinenko did not literally investigate from beyond the grave. He did something more real. While dying, he preserved the names, meetings, and locations that gave detectives their first pathway through an almost unimaginable crime. After his death, the poison completed the map. Every contaminated surface became a silent witness. Every hotel record anchored a moment in time. Every laboratory result strengthened or challenged the victim's account. His killers may have believed that radioactive material would leave no ordinary weapon behind. Instead, it created one of the most distinctive forensic trails ever examined. The case was solved in the investigative sense, but justice requires more than identifying responsibility. It requires arrest, trial, judgment, and the opportunity for evidence to be challenged in court. That final chapter has never occurred. Alexander Litvinenko helped detectives identify the path to his killers. What he could not overcome was the border protecting them. If this investigation moved you, subscribe to Mysterious Crime, like this video, share it with someone who loves documentaries, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next investigation. Every mystery has a story.